Many people who come down with COVID have mild symptoms, recover at home. Some have no symptoms at all.
Yet others can end up in the hospital for weeks. And that was the case for one of the first cases in Boulder County. Connor McHugh joins us live there tonight. And Connor, the man you met with has quite the story to tell.
Yeah, Karen, Matt Wolvington often shares his cautionary tale, as he calls it, to his customers here at this bar, and says he does it in the hopes that they will listen and take the virus seriously, especially if they weren't before. Tonight, he shared those same details with us to bring his story to a wider audience.
At the Outback Saloon in Boulder, reminders of the pandemic's seriousness are all around.
Drew, you doing around?
But none are more jarring than the story of GM Matt Wolvington.
I'm just grateful and thankful and happy that I'm still here.
Matt's COVID experience started in March with a fever and loss of taste and smell. But a week later, he was in the hospital for shortness of breath and pneumonia.
So I had a fever and those symptoms for a total of 16 days. After day 6 in the hospital, I was then asymptomatic for 3 days, and I went home.
2.5 weeks later, there was more trouble and another trip to the hospital.
I had a hydropneumothorax, which is basically fluid in between your rib cage and your lung, along with an abscess on my lung.
What was unusual was isolated to one portion of the lung only.
Dr. Franco Ray eventually operated on Matt, removing a portion of his lung. He says post-COVID abscesses or cavities aren't uncommon, but Matt's case is rare.
This was a bit unusual, particularly when you think as COVID is a sort of a systemic disease affecting the entire person.
Months later, Matt is recovered and sharing his story with customers and friends alike, hoping to change attitudes and actions.
This story isn't about me, it's about what could happen. There are thousands of people that would trade to have my scar to have their life.
Now, Dr. Ray says the biggest lesson here is for people who have had COVID to make sure to follow up with their doctors about any type of complication, no matter